everyone, welcome back. My name is Nina. I'm a life transformation coach, and this channel is dedicated to helping us understand our own psychology so that we can lead our best life possible. I'm really excited because today's video is a solution-based response video to a Psych2Go video called 10 Signs Someone's Always Playing the Victim. Now, if you haven't seen that video or you are not familiar with Psych2Go, I'm going to go ahead and link all their information down in the description box below. I can't recommend them enough. They're one of my favorite channels, and they make psychology and mental health videos that are just really relatable and easy to understand. Now, if you watched the video and you thought it all sounded very familiar, not really about someone else, but you started to recognize that maybe you have been participating in the self-destructive behavior yourself, I want you to know that firstly, you are not alone. This is actually fairly common. Secondly, the behavior is absolutely transformable, which is what we'll be talking about today. And lastly, when we're able to really let go of this destructive habit, it leads to extremely positive outcomes. So what exactly is victim mentality? Victim mentality is an acquired personality trait in which a person tends to believe they are a victim of the negative actions of others and behaves as if this is so even when there is contrary evidence. So in short, people with this mentality blame other people for their unhappiness or their lack of success. So in some cases, this can be kind of a cry for sympathy or for attention. And in other cases, it's simply a very destructive habit that truly blocks our full potential. I want to quickly specify, however, that victim mentality is not the same thing as being a victim. They are two entirely different things. And that is not really the focus of today's video. So if you are genuinely a victim, or if your victim mentality is due to the fact you've had abuse or trauma or anything of the like, I definitely suggest reaching out to a licensed mental health therapist that would be more than happy to help you work through these issues. I also want to mention that not all true victims have victim mentality, so it's very important that we learn to really separate these two terms. Today specifically, we are going to talk about how we can stop feeling like the world is against us and to realize our own ability to control our own life. So, how can we learn to break away from victim mentality? The first thing that we need to do is get to the root of how this habit began in the first place. So before we make one more internal story about how everyone else is to blame and everyone else is out to get us, we need to take a step back and think about how this behavior actually started. Now, a lot of times I have found that people, when they examine this, have noticed that it stems from something that is called learned helplessness. Now, this is something that I made a full video about, so if you're not familiar with that, I will go ahead and link it down in the description box below so you have that resource. But basically, learned helplessness stems from experiences in the past, usually in the childhood, but not always, where we have come to believe that we are powerless, that we are helpless, that we have no way to control situations. So this is, again, a learned behavior, which means it's something that can be successfully unlearned, and we can learn to take our power back instead. So this is something to definitely consider, but if that's not the case for you, you do want to figure out what is the case for you. Where did this behavior start? The second thing that we need to do is to stop blaming other people. I know it makes us feel maybe good in the moment to not have responsibility and to really just dump it off on someone else, but ultimately it really harms our relationships and a lot of times also our self-esteem. So we need to instead think about what our own role is in these situations and to stop magnifying the roles that other people play. Yeah, maybe they contributed a little bit, and yes, maybe there are some negative situations in our life that are beyond our control somewhat, but always we have the control over our response and our reaction. We have to learn to truly take responsibility, and when we do that, we actually take our power back. The third thing that we need to do is to stop comparing ourselves to other people. Now, I know this is a hard habit to break, And I know it is somewhat human nature, but believe me, comparison only leads to suffering. Of course, we're going to feel like a victim when we are constantly measuring ourselves against other people and feeling that we are coming up short. So we're going to start looking for external explanations as to why we're not as successful or happy as other people, and it's going to really lend itself to victim mentality. So what we need to do instead is to stop focusing on other people, what they think, what they're doing. It really doesn't matter. What matters is what we are doing and what we are thinking and what we are feeling. So when we bring that focus back to ourselves, again, we start to gain that control back over our own lives. The fourth thing that we can do is to learn to practice forgiveness. We need to let go of the bitterness. We need to let go of the grudges. When we do have this mentality, we tend to hold on to anger and envy, and we start to believe automatically any negative story that we tell ourselves about other situations and other people. So when we can instead offer them forgiveness and empathy and compassion, we really set ourselves free because we are taking that weight off of our shoulders, and we learn to challenge these thoughts. We learn to understand that we don't want to automatically jump to negative conclusions. And usually, again, when we have this mentality, that is commonly what we tend to do. Now, the fifth thing really goes hand in hand with that, and that is to learn to stop believing your automatic thoughts. Now, every single person has thoughts that just pop into their head, again, automatically. We tend to not question these thoughts, and we tend to have the same types of thoughts over and over and over. It's our habitual thinking patterns. But we can learn to start to question these thoughts, because many times these things are not at all based in reality, and oftentimes they are actually completely irrational. And when we step back, really examine them, we can see that they really don't hold water. There's not really evidence for these things. They just seem to be true because this is something we've been telling ourselves from the very beginning. But luckily, this is something that we can completely learn to change. Now, the method I think that is most helpful in doing this is called cognitive behavioral therapy, which is something that you can learn to practice on yourself or something that you can do with the aid of a therapist. And this is something that I also made a whole video about. If you want to learn how to use it as a self-therapy, you can certainly do so. I will also link that down in the description box below. Number 6 might be the most important of all, and that is to stop thinking of ourselves as a victim and instead think of ourselves as a warrior. Yes, it is true. Bad things happen to good people sometimes. However, that does not mean that we need to surrender or to think of ourselves as a victim. We can instead use these situations to help us grow, to help us learn, and to make us stronger. There is always something positive that we can pull out of a negative situation. We need to stop focusing on all the negative things in our life and think about the positive things and all the potential that is there. And most importantly, we need to start thinking of ourselves as someone that is a survivor, that is able to get through anything and everything that comes in our way, which is exactly what we've been doing our whole life. If we are here right now, we've gotten through every problem, every situation that we have ever had. And that is how we need to start thinking about ourselves. Number 7 is to practice self-love. Instead of blaming the universe for all our problems, we need to turn our focus and our energy inward. When we are constantly pointing the fingers at everybody else for everything that is going on, we are really neglecting our own self. We are not helping ourselves to heal. We are not giving ourselves the love and support that we need to end our suffering. So this is a time to really offer yourself that love and forgiveness if you need it, but you want to definitely be your own support system. Number 8 is to focus on other people. When we have this mentality, we feel like the whole world is all about us and it's all about our problems, which is not the case at all. It is important that we acknowledge our situations and our problems and our feelings, but it's also important that we start to acknowledge the feelings and situations of other people too, because that can actually help us see that other people are suffering as well. It's not all about us and our own problems. And it can actually start the healing process to help other people and to put energy into something that is good and productive and uplifting. That can definitely be something that ends up healing us as well. Number 9 is extremely important, and that is to learn to practice gratitude. We need to shift away from focusing on all the things that we feel like we are missing in our life, or all the bad things that we feel are happening to us, to all the good things that are happening to us and all the things that we actually do have. So much of the time we feel like a victim because we are simply focusing on all the things that we feel are negative in our life, when in fact there are so many positives that are there. We're just not looking at them because we have this habit of always thinking about the bad things. And the last thing that we can do is to start to address the problems in our life. I know a lot of times that we feel that the situations and circumstances in our life are just beyond us. There is nothing that we can do. And of course, that is not the case. It is simply that this mentality makes us uninclined to try. People that have victim mentality have what's called an external locus of control, which basically means that they feel that they are powerless because outside influences really control the direction of their life. And this type of thinking is really completely reversible. And when we start to be proactive and start to really design our life and to head on address the problems and issues that we do have, we're going to immediately feel empowered. And all it takes is just, again, addressing the problems, really thinking about what solutions we can find and taking that first step. So while there are not too many positives that are associated with this type of thinking, this is definitely a mindset that you are completely able to outgrow and transform. So never underestimate your own power to change your life. This is a mentality that you can get rid of for good, and you will be much happier for doing so. Please let me know in the comments below what resonated with you, what you really identified with, and how you plan to change your own life. Also, again, if you aren't a subscriber, please go ahead and become one. We definitely want you to be connected. Also, be aware that this video was for educational purposes only and definitely not meant to replace the diagnosis or treatment from a mental health professional. I truly hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like it, share it with someone else who may need to hear the same message today, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Have an amazing day.